Thank you for joining us today. I'm Michaela Clark.
I'm Bailey Braun.
And there was an aftershock around the Sandpoint area today. It was a 6.2. This comes after a 7.3 on Wednesday. That one had a tsunami warning, but today's did not. Tell us about today's earthquake.
Yeah, so like you said, today was an aftershock of what we saw last Wednesday. So with this earthquake, it happened around 2:30 in the afternoon, and it happened just 50 miles southeast of Sandpoint. So definitely a little bit too close for comfort for those of you in Sandpoint and even just in the Aleutian Islands in general. But this was nearly 30 miles deep, and there were no tsunami warnings issued or anything related to that, thankfully, because of this. But of course, with aftershocks, you still need to keep your eye out for any alerts, but thankfully today we didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and so for these people that are in this area, I can only imagine what it's like after a big quake, and then, you know, every time you think about a small movement in your house, it's like, is this an aftershock? And it can bring a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah.
So we have video today. This is from Marlene Mack. Thank you for sending this to us. This is about 30 seconds of what this quake looked like from the Sandpoint area. You can see the shaking is just kind of ramping up right now, and then it just hits. And let's just watch it for a second. Look at that shaking. It does loop in just a few seconds here, and we'll see the beginning again. That's about right here. It starts over again. You can see that shaking ramping up. It must be a difficult thing for them to be dealing with this for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure it's pretty scary. I've personally never experienced an earthquake, but I cannot imagine what it would feel like to have the ground moving under your feet like that. It must be really scary. But thankfully, no tsunamis are, you know, another factor that need to be worried about, at least in this case. So that is the good news in this case.
On the other hand, I grew up in Anchorage, and I'm used to things like this, or used to earthquakes, and growing up here kind of gave me the fascination with the 1964 earthquake, and then just learning about them growing up. And so it's kind of cool to see the difference between us two. We just different ways of life, growing up in different areas.
Yeah, that's true. And last week on Wednesday, whenever the 7.3 had hit, it was actually my off day, so I wasn't involved in any of the coverage, but just seeing on the news and just seeing all of the chaos that kind of sparked from that happening, it was pretty insane. And my heart goes out to all of you in the Aleutians, and especially in Sandpoint, that have this kind of thing to worry about, especially that close to that area.
I wasn't here for the 2018 earthquake. That was a 7.1 in the Anchorage area, but I was here a few days later, and so I can imagine what these people may be going through right now. I remember, like, the dog would stand up, and I'm like, is that another aftershock?
Yeah.
And that continued for a while, but sending them positive vibes. Let's take a look at that video one more time. This is really interesting to see, especially for the people who haven't experienced it.
And I mean, like we had mentioned, this zone is very active. Geologically speaking, these plates have been active for a really long time. And last week we learned that just these kind of aftershocks can last days, weeks, and even months. So hopefully this just happens at least a little bit in the next few days, but not in the upcoming months. But we'll have to see, of course, because an aftershock of this size, I feel, are gonna spark a bit more.
And this area is no stranger to big quakes, especially in like the last 5 years. They had even, I believe it was an 8.2, and many different 7s. I remember covering that 8.2 and the effects and talking to the people who experienced it and the tsunami evacuation. So it's never a great thing for people to deal with this, but it's certainly interesting from the geologic standpoint.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, with these aftershocks, this is a perfect time to, you know, keep in mind of what your tsunami plan might be in case something like this were to happen in a larger scale that were to trigger a tsunami. So if you're in those areas, just try to use this as an opportunity to get prepared for next time.
Yeah, and it's always important to, if you feel shaking, you're anywhere near the ocean, anywhere near water, get to higher ground. Get as far away as you can, and watch and listen for what your local authorities are telling you if this shaking does happen.
Yeah.
Well, Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll have the latest updates as they come.